at 6 p.m. Good evening. Welcome to the Morrison County Board of Adjustment public hearing for April 16th, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a few items to cover before we get started. Please sign in at the door if you have not already done so. There you will also find a detailed handout of the step-by-step procedure we will follow tonight if you wish to take one. Please put any electronic devices on silent mode at this time. Also, please note that all testimony is being recorded for the record. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts. Land Services staff is here to assist the Board of Adjustments with its duties. The task of the Board of Adjustment is to consider requests for variances and appeals from an order, requirement, or decision made by a county zoning official in accordance with the state law and county ordinance. Each request is considered on its own merit. The burden of proving a practical difficulty rests with the applicant. If a variance is granted, it is granted to the land, not to the landowner. There's a protocol for how we will proceed tonight. For each variance request on the agenda, we will hear a staff report, hear testimony from the applicants, and the board will discuss and gather more information as needed. Next, I'll ask if there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request. I will ask each party to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. Please be as factual as possible and direct all statements and questions to me. After all testimony is complete, I will close the public hearing portion of the process. The board will then review and discuss the case in terms of our finding of fact criteria as required by Minnesota statute and county ordinance. We'll have a series of votes, discuss whether the conditions be made, and have a final motion to approve or deny the request based on those findings. After this final vote on your request, you may leave if you wish. Our first and only agenda item for the night is Anthony Kmetz, 3240 Aztec Road, Motley, Minnesota, Minnesota 56466. Application for a variance to add onto a non-conforming structure to be over impervious surface located on Lot 1 of Tesh Lakeshore Lots, Section 7, Township 132, Range 31, Scandia Valley Township. Miss Amy, do we have a staff report ready to go?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Let's have the applicant state their name for the record first.
We should do that.
Sure. I'm Kara Saucier, C-A-R-A-S-A-U-C-I-E-R.
Thank you.
I'm Anthony Kmetz, KM-ETZ.
And then if you can speak into the microphone, that'd be great. Thank you. All right. Are you ready for the staff report now, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, this is a request to expand the existing deck within the shore impact zone and expand the existing garage within setback to the road and exceed the allowable impervious surface. This is located in Section 7 of Scandia Valley Township. The ordinance references for this request is 705.6, 706.1, 706.1A. Here is a plat map of Scandia Valley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the variance request received from the applicant. And then a site drawing also provided by the applicant. And here's an aerial photograph of the property. It's outlined in blue. And then some oblique imagery of the property as well. And then here is a view from the lake. And then these were not taken at the site viewing. They were taken earlier in the year by our shoreline specialist. He forgot to take pictures when you were viewing. So again, the property is in Section 7 of Scandia Valley Township on Chaminade Lake. The parcel is a non-conforming single lot size, which means it's less than 120 feet wide at the lake and less than 30,000 square feet in area. The parcel is 50 feet wide and 17,500 square feet, and the property is bisected by Aztec Road. A 750 square foot dwelling with a full basement built in 1961 exists on the lakeside portion of the property. It is approximately 47 feet from the lake with a deck approximately 39 feet from the lake. The existing garage is approximately 21 feet from the road right-of-way. Then here is another aerial photograph with those measurements from the lake and then also from the road right-of-way. The applicant acquired the property in July of 2021, and the applicant is requesting two variances. One, to expand the existing 4x5 and 8x38 non-conforming deck by 20 square feet to an 8x43 deck, essentially to square it up. And so here, if you look in the left-hand corner, that's really just to square that out with the rest of the deck. And then the second request is to expand the existing non-conforming 24.4 by 24.4 garage to a 24.4 by 44.4 garage and elevate the garage 2 feet. The existing garage is approximately 12 feet tall, and the proposed height is 14 feet. And then here is an aerial with that expansion shown. The existing impervious surface calculation is 31.7%, and the proposed impervious surface calculation is 27.6%. 25% impervious surface is allowed, and the applicant plans to remove excess bituminous driveway and parking area behind the garage and the concrete area extending beyond the deck to reduce the impervious surface. Here's the calculation that was provided by the applicant. And then here are the areas of removal. An approximate 2,216 square foot envelope, building envelope exists on the road side of the property. And yep, and there it is on the right. And then the applicant did attend a development review team meeting, and here are the notes. And then they also did submit a temporary and permanent stormwater protection plan. And then also their shoreline assessment worksheet. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1. And then the applicable Morrison County comprehensive water plan goals and objectives is the surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objectives B and D. 119 notices were sent. One comment was received stating they were in favor of the request, and that was received prior to the hearing. And then here are your finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I would like to note that it was George, Clint, and Brent that were at the viewing and myself on Friday, the 12th. And Marv, you were on site. Can you let us know? Say it in the mic.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was 2 days prior on the Wednesday before at site there.
Okay, thank
Had
you.
a nice conversation with Anthony at that time.
Perfect. All right, given the staff report, anything to add to Amy's comments and information?
Not a lot, but I'd just like to add, like on figure 3, if you look at the steps, and our hardship is, why we're doing these steps is we want to change the steps from getting closer to the lake to decrease the distance from the lake. And the reason why we need to do that is we'll hit the post, with the steps. That's the hardship we're having with that. And
So we're actually trying to increase the distance from the dock
the lake.
to the lake.
yeah, just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on that. That is the reason why we need to move the steps from north to south. So,
Okay,
okay.
thank you. I'll open up to the board members for questions, comments, observations.
Mr. Chair,
Marv?
Amy, could you bring up the building envelope and how the addition they want to put to the garage will fit in there?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I want to clarify, I was not at the viewing, but my shoreline specialist said that the intention is not to add on to the garage, it's to completely remove it and rebuild. Is that
No.
correct?
No, we would
Okay.
like to raise the existing garage.
Okay.
2 feet and add on to the back.
Okay, so it is an addition.
It is an
Okay,
addition.
wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so we'll go from a 24 4-foot
Yep.
depth to a 44
Okay,
4-foot.
sounds good. I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
because that was my understanding as
Yeah,
well.
okay.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair, just, I
Clay.
don't want to butt in front of Marv, but just to clarify also, they're gonna add on but change the roof right now. The pitch is north and south, or the gables are north and south. It'll all be turned east and west,
Correct.
On the addition.
Yes.
Yeah.
and the current garage.
That's correct, on the
Yes.
garage.
Yep.
On both sides?
No, just, it'd be,
Okay.
one side, the new addition will switch to gable.
Okay.
So with that being stated, how will that fit in this building envelope? How many percent of your addition will be in that building envelope that you have there?
And how much is the building envelope? I know that,
If you look up on there is,
It appears that it should be all in the envelope. It's hard to tell because the lines are all off, from them lines are so
Oh.
far off that,
the property lines are off, but the building itself fits completely within the envelope.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
With the exception
Excuse me.
of the road right away, which every house on the block is aligned in the same fashion as the garage.
The addition will be in the building envelope.
okay,
Thank you.
that was my comment, Mr. Chair, is that, with the lines being skewed as they are, not all of the building would be in the envelope, but a good
Well,
majority
it
of it.
is, essentially what you need to do is take that blue block and shift it to the left. Because this is conforming for setback from the side property line. It's just, that our mapping doesn't represent that here. So that entire addition would be fitting within that, building envelope, yes.
okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, so the water's gonna drop off, you're gonna turn the roof 90 degrees, so it's gonna be coming off the sides like that, so you're gonna be running towards both neighbors' water off the roof, correct?
Yep, and then we're
Okay.
gonna gutter it and gutter towards the back.
Yep, okay, thank you.
I have no more questions at this time.
I guess one other question that I had, on the impervious surface, we're not adding impervious surface, but we're adding a roof. And, and they're gonna gutter the water out of there, and I know we mentioned that at the site viewing about French drains. And is that something that you'd be willing to do on the house and on the,
I would be willing to do that.
that would really help with the water runoff on a lot, It's not only all the impervious surface you have, but there's also, Aztec Road is also impervious surface as well as,
Oh, yeah, if you,
yeah, so that's, okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Amy?
George, are you looking at the installation of French drains just on the house or on the garage too?
On both,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Yep, and we did talk about that at the site viewing. I think Darren brought that up, I believe. Yep. And then also along that same line, on the impervious surface, so that retaining wall. So one problem I would have with that is that any water that falls on the pavement itself is probably gonna run towards your neighbor's property. So would there be any way where there could be a green space between the retaining wall and the new bituminous?
Like at the back of the garage, there'd be a green space right at the back. I'm gonna cut it off there, but as far as in between the wall and the blacktop, no. Because, I think my wall would be, it structurally would, hurt it.
Okay,
But the water itself at the French drain would, there'd be green space right there where it drains off from the gutter. It would drain into a green space, into the French drain and into the green space there. But it'd be on the edge of the blacktop right there.
okay. Okay, well, I was just questioning that. And then I know Darren had also brought up the height of the
Riprap?
riprap, I think that needs to be 3 feet above the ordinary high water mark, correct me if I'm wrong?
It can't extend greater than 3 feet, correct.
So would that be a condition that we would need to add?
It certainly wouldn't hurt to have that is corrected. And are you aware of what
I
he's
am aware-
talking about?
I am
Okay.
definitely aware of that, and I have no problem with that. Personally, I would like to drop that, but like today in the storm, we have water crashing over the top of that wall with the high waves. But with the lowering the lake, yeah, definitely, I plan on lowering that.
Yeah, it was permitted as riprap, and so it needs to continue to meet the specs for riprap. So that'll be something, that's on our radar screen, and we will circle back to that. And, but if it's something that you want to condition, it certainly there would be a nexus for that, yes.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I guess I'd like some feelings from the rest of the board on what, and I think Darren also mentioned a buffer out at the lake.
Marv?
Mr. Chair, so anyhow, Darren is our shoreline specialist, and I was thinking the same thing, that we need to put a condition to follow Darren or the shoreline specialist recommendations. And a big concern of mine is on that garage side, all that tar, I know you're gonna be removing some of it, but when you get some heavy rains like today we had come down there, that's all rolling directly to the lake, going straight in like that, and without being filtered. And with you turning that roof line and having gutters, helping redirect that will help. But what Darren there is the shoreline specialist, if he has some additional recommendations, I'm thinking we need to have him, or you guys follow that. And so I'm on the same page as George is there.
I feel that the water from the garage, if that's where you're talking, will never get to the lake, unless it's underground. Because as we were out there, and we all noticed, we have a break in there. The ground is higher. We all talked about that, and we feel that it all goes back towards the back of the garage at that point.
But on the front side of, it's tapered quite heavily, and it's gonna be running directly over the road into the lake. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, from the front of the garage, it definitely goes towards the road, but the road is definitely mounded, so it can't get over the top of the road.
Okay, I didn't catch that. Thank you.
And for Darren's recommendation of the natural vegetation, a 6-foot buffer, we're able to put in 3 feet of shrubs and hostas, whatnot. To do a 6-foot buffer of pure prairie grass equates to over 50% of the lakeside yard. That's not feasible for us.
May I ask why?
We wouldn't have any room to move. It's not that we couldn't do it, it's that it would spread over the entire yard, and it would essentially make the
Yeah.
lakeside portion of the yard unusable.
Mr. Chair,
Clint?
I think just to clarify what he meant was 6 feet long.
Oh,
And remember, we talked each corner you could do that. You didn't have to do it
Oh.
right in the center.
that we would be willing to
You
put
know.
in the taller grasses along with the shrubs and the hostas. I was under the impression that he meant for the entire length, 6 feet wide of natural grass.
No. So, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Clint?
Okay, so just a couple things. So, Amy, you got conditions them guys put down? Did you put them as conditions or no?
Well, I have written down that there'd be a reduction of the riprap to meet the DNR specifications, and then the French drain installation on both the house and and on the garage. I guess I wasn't catching anything else.
Then I'll put next for condition would be to plant that native grass at Darren's direction, with what he recommends to do.
Yeah,
and what we
six-
kind of talked
6
about.
feet, yeah,
You know,
6
we
feet.
check with them to make sure, but that's what I would do. Couple things just to kind of look at and clear up. Again, once more, so you have your existing garage. You're gonna add on to it. The roof, the gables are gonna be east and west instead of north and south. The existing garage is also getting a new roof. No?
The existing garage got a new roof last year.
Okay, so it's not, okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna extend. the
You're just
new
gonna
shingles.
gutter. So basically, the back side of that garage would get guttered in and follow along with the addition.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so if we look at, everybody's concerned with the water running, I understand that. And with the French drains going in and his green space behind that, with some of that tar getting taken out, if we look at what he has already behind that garage, it's all tar. And he has them couple buildings and junk there, and that's all getting removed. And when we put this roof on and gutter it, we're actually taking care of a lot of that water. Now it can't just go everywhere. I had the same concern with that wall, but when you really look at it, a lot of that water is not getting to that wall. Because the front side of the garage is gonna run down and always has, no matter if I think there'll be less water going to the wall to the neighbors because of the French drain and then going to that green space. So that's how I see it, unless anybody else, I just wanted to just make that. What I had was lower the riprap, same thing these guys had, plant that native grasses, the rain gutters and the French drains, both sides of the road. Then one thing to look at too, we're looking at 20 square feet. We like that they're adding, they want to add, and they did lower the impervious surface. It isn't where we want it, but putting this additions on, they still lowered it. We look at our 20 square feet, which ain't much. Looking at the picture of the old, compared to when we were out there that day, I see the deck actually went all the way to the edge of the house. Darren was kind of saying it was like a landing, but it actually goes all the way to the edge. It just ain't the full depth. So by putting in with their plan, putting the stairs alongside parallel to the deck, that lessens the encroachment to the lake. They're gonna take out some of that impervious surface by filling that in just a little bit with decking and stuff. It don't change the impervious surface because the pavers underneath it and brick, below it. So I like that it's less encroachment on the lake. So actually, the overall thing is improving water getting to the lake if we do these conditions and how their plan is. Let's see. There isn't really much change to the lakeside with the conditions of repairing some of them things. Then I know it's getting connected to a non-conforming structure on the garage side of the road, but at least the proposal is to build all within the building envelope. And they lowered impervious surface. Yes, again, we'd like to see that down to 25. So I don't know, we talked a little bit out there that day about trying to get it down to 25. You give any thought to that and anything else you could do?
I mean, like I said, I'd sure like to be able to put a door there and be able to get in my garage on a surface, on a
Yep.
hard surface,
Yep.
I think we all would.
Yep,
That's where I'm at with that.
okay. So that's all I really have, Mr. Chair. Wasn't a lot of questions, it's just kind of how I see it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Say, Anthony, how much space is there between the garage and your neighbor's house would be to the, I get all messed up on directions up there because nothing's square with the world. The neighbor to, if you're looking at your garage, the neighbor to the right,
Looking at the garage neighbor to the right,
about 20 feet?
oh, there's more than that on the neighbor to the right,
Okay.
yeah.
What, to your property line?
To my property line, it's about 18, 19
Okay,
feet.
that's what I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Then, I guess I would, at this point, I guess, after listening with Clint and stuff, I guess I would be okay with the 27.6% impervious surface. And I think there was one more thing that Darren did mention, is that if you're standing on the deck, on the right side of the riprap, there was some boulders there that had to be removed. I thought, because he said it was a retaining wall. Is that?
Yeah, he
I
called
think
it
he talked,
retaining- yeah.
I don't know, maybe just a couple of them or something that had to be removed,
Yeah,
because,
he's talking about a couple of them.
Yeah.
I think when I knock it down, I don't think it's a retaining wall no more at that point.
yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not an expert on that.
That's where I think we're gonna end up with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Marv?
I think there was a little bit of confusion, but I want to go back to that garage on the opposite side, and you were talking about the roof there, and you said that was re-roofed. If you would pull that up, Amy, back to the garage. And now, so were you going to leave the entire roof? Because if you were going to bring it in on the back side of that, that addition, that gable end there, the way it is, ran directly, to, that would be the west. Were you going to tie that in and have part of the roof line in with that, or how were you going to do that?
Yeah, I was gonna tie it in.
So is it going to be the same height as the other? So then you would probably have, you wouldn't probably have a whole lot of water running away, and it would be parallel on both sides, correct?
Yeah.
And then on the lake side, that whole gable would tilt towards that?
Still stay the same, yeah.
Okay, that answers that whole thing like that. So, and as reiterating what the rest of the members have stated about getting as close as to that 25% would help, alleviate things here too with it. So, and I guess my recommendation, rather than us, Clint had stated different things that needed to be done, is just follow the shoreline specialist recommendations. Would make it easier, but that's where it was at. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Amy?
So what I have written down for conditions that you are going to be keeping in mind as you're voting is the reduction of the riprap to meet the DNR specifications, installation of French drains on the garage and the home, native grass buffer as specified by the shoreland specialist, and removal of the impervious surface as identified within the application. Those are the things that I've got written down. Have I captured all of that? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as it's not the 6 feet, 6 feet wide, the entire property.
No, when he was out, he did reference you got to be able to get to your dock, so he
Yeah.
said in the middle of that property, that's where that pathway to the water was acceptable.
Okay.
Yep. Just a few observations on my end. I think the request, as you're looking at it from what you're putting up to, or what you're putting in versus what you're taking away, is more than, it's more than reasonable, with the ability to control more of the water and the flow on the property itself away from the lake, which is very advantageous. You're lowering your impervious surface overall, which is a huge plus. And then your ability to work with the county on some of these things, even with all of the conditions that go with or that we've talked through and that Darren was talking out there, just the willingness to do that is extremely helpful in us going through and saying, well, we're making the sacrifices here and we're trying to get this done over here to make this and improve this property for its use. So thank you for that and nice work on your application. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we'll close this section. I'll open it up to the public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak, please go up to the podium and state your name for the request, or state your name for the record and your address. That's the first time. Any public input? That's twice. Any public input? That's 3 times. We will close this section of the meeting to the public. Okay, on to the finding of facts questions. Question number 1, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? We'll start with you, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I say yes, it is. It is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance for the fact that they're willing to, well, first of all, the increase is only by 20 square feet on the deck. They're moving everything back from the lake. We're gaining some there. We're gaining on the impervious surface, and they're willing to work with our land or our shore specialists to mitigate some of the other issues on the property.
Anybody else? Thank you, George. Question number 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by land use ordinance? Clint?
Yes, when you look at the total project at first glance, you'd look and say, boy, they're really adding a lot. But when we look at the lake side, 20 square feet ain't much. They're actually lessening the encroachment on the lake, in parallel in their steps, taking away some impervious surface, looking at kind of redoing the shoreline, let's say, to catch water with the French drains and that type of stuff. So that part's totally reasonable. You look at the other side of the road, adding on to this garage, they're doing it all in the building envelope that's there. Yes, they're hooking it to a non-conforming structure, but there's some different circumstances along that whole road than maybe parts of the other lake, with the road dividing the property and things like that. So when you look at it at first glance, you're like, wow, this is a big project, but when you really look at it, it's not. What's really getting more intrusive to it, they're helping mitigate a little bit with some of the things that we've put in our conditions and are willing to do. So really, when I look at this, they're fixing the garage side of the road, I think, a lot by taking care of a lot of the water that would make it downhill to the road. And then when we look at the lakeside, it's just a 20 square feet, that's 2 by 10. That's pretty small.
4 by 5.
Yep, okay, 4 by 5, it's pretty small. So I would say yes, it is a real reasonable manner for this application.
Anybody add? Okay, thank you. Question 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? That one is to me. If you look up and down that entire road, where the garages are and where the houses are on both sides of on the road to the lake and on the opposite side, it fits right in. In fact, I think it probably helps clean it up and add to the character of the way and what you're proposing to do to the property. Not much more to be said on that. But Clint, Marv, George?
Pardon me?
Anybody to add anything? On 3? Okay. On to question 4. Is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marvin?
Well, this one I kind of struggle with, and as we do at times. I do see what they put down as a practical difficulty was the steps directed towards the lake, and I really don't think that's a practical difficulty. Is it better what they want to do? Absolutely. They're lowering the impervious surface. They're moving it further away from the lake. So I see that end of it as a plus, but as a practical difficulty, I do not see that. What I do see as a practical difficulty is this home was built there in 1961, before these ordinances were in place. So that could be a possibility as used as it, but I still struggle with some of this. Is the place going to be better, and is the water going to be redirected away from running directly into the lake with this? Absolutely. But I'm still struggling with some of this as that practical difficulty, other than the placement of the home before these ordinances were in place.
Thank you, Marv.
Mr. Chair.
Clint?
I would just like to add, I think a lot of the practical difficulty goes along with how them lots were designed originally. Putting that road in between, busting up them lots all along that lake, on that side of the lake, really puts a hindrance on what the homeowners are able to do with them lots. You know, that house was there already. By adding that 20 square feet and the way they're changing the deck, I think it doesn't hurt anything. And when we look at, we grant this variance, it's for the future. I don't think it'll hurt anything in the future either. Then on the non-lake side, we have a garage that's too close to the road right away. That's just because that road is put in there, I believe. And by them adding their addition, that building's all gonna be in the building envelope. So I think a lot of the practical difficulty is just the way that the lot was designed, and then the way the road goes through there and breaks up everybody along that side of the lake. That's how I see the practical difficulty.
Thank you, Clint.
Mr. Chairman?
George?
I guess just to add on to what Clint said, I guess probably one of the biggest practical difficulties there is probably the size of the lot. As far as width, it's only 50 feet wide. Well, you don't fit much in 50 feet nowadays. And also the size of the lot that's on the lake side. You know, you put a house in there and that's about all you have room for. So I'd say that would also be a practical difficulty.
Thank you, George. Okay, on to question 5. Is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? George?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yes, it was created by, I guess it was probably created by the people that originally surveyed the lots and made them so small before there were any, I guess what you would say is 30,000 square foot lots. So the lot was made small, and that came from way back, and with all the changes in zoning ordinance and stuff, you know, that added to the problem.
Thank you. Clint or Marv? Anything to add? Okay, question 6. Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes, it does. I truly think they're enhancing this property, making it more eco-friendly. Is it to the thresholds that, well, I should say, is it to our standards? Not quite, but it's within the threshold, I believe. They're lower in the impervious surface. We do like to see 25% or less, but I think it's getting there. And then, yeah, it's way more than economics. He's not trying to do the cheap route. When we were there, they delivered siding. He's going to re-side the whole house. They're sticking a lot of money into it, so they're not trying to do it cheap. To whatever they're asking for, it isn't going to save them any money. So, and I do think it's an improvement in the property as far as the water, where it goes and things like that. So that's my answer to 6.
Thank you, Clint. George?
Mr. Chairman, one more comment. I guess at the end of the day, what this variance would do was would get us closer to some conformity. It'll never ever be a conforming situation there ever, but it'll get us closer.
Thank you. Okay. That closes up the questions, and we will go to the vote. Okay. Question 1, is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Clint?
George first.
What's that?
George first.
Oh, I'm sorry. George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, yes. Marv?
Yes.
Question 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is a yes. Marv?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Question 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? I, John, yes. Marv?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Question 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marv?
No.
George?
No, I would say.
Clint?
Yes.
Aye, John is a yes. Question 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Aye, John, yes. Marv?
No.
Question 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Clint?
Yes.
Aye, John is a yes. Marv?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
So after the vote, we have 5 of the 6 questions answered in the affirmative. Do I have a,
You've got one in the no, so you have to ask for.
do I have a motion for denial? Okay. No motion for denial. Obviously, no second.
So you're answering no to those criteria questions, but not making a motion to deny?
Mr. Chair,
Marv?
we've been down this road before, and I think we have an opportunity here to, and the reason I voted no, and I think you all knew that, is it was that I struggle with this practical difficulty. I really, and that's, and I think, is it going to be a better place? Absolutely. But what I think is the practical difficulty is not the steps, it's just maybe the year. And that's where that is planted. So George can change his vote, but right now I'm staying firm at mine here.
Okay.
So I guess the only, I would be willing to change my vote, but the one thing, the reason I voted no on it was because it's not unique to this property. Every property along that road has got the same, is gonna have the same problems eventually. Is what they're doing a good thing? Yes. So I guess if it's permitted, I would change my vote to a yes, because I think we should do it.
All right.
Amy?
So what I have for reasoning for number 4, or the answers again, was that lowering the impervious surface is a plus. The structure was built prior to land use controls. The road bisects the lots and reduces the building envelope. And the applicant is utilizing the building envelope for the garage, but this is a small lot. So that is those are the answers in the affirmative that I was given for due to circumstances unique, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. So I guess, Mr. Chair, what you can do is re-poll that question. Go through number 4 again and re-poll and see if you get a different result.
All right, we'll do that one time. Question number 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Marv?
No.
George?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
I, John, is yes.
All right, so that moves that to the affirmative.
So now we have all of the questions answered in the affirmative.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve with the conditions set forth?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make the motion to approve this application with all the conditions that we have written down.
Thank you, Clint. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman, with the conditions.
So based on these findings and the criteria stated in Minnesota Statutes 394.27, a motion was made by Clint, seconded by George to approve the requested variance. All in favor, say aye. Clint?
Aye.
Marv?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aye, John is aye.
All right, motion passes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
I want to thank the board.
Thank
Yep.
you very much.
So when you get to some of them projects, feel free to call Land Services and also talk to Darren,
Okay,
Trying to
so
follow the
everything's
script.
done proper.
Trying to follow
All
this.
right.
perfect.
Good luck.
Thank you all.
Good luck with it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, that completes our agenda for that part of the agenda for the evening. So the second part of this is on to new business.
Mr. Chair, I don't think I've got any new business for the Board of Adjustment.
Do we have any old
I don't
business?
have any of that either, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
I think you'd have, do you have
I would like
minutes?
to make a motion that we approve the April 2nd minutes.
Do I got a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes approved. That it?
Yep.
Motion to adjourn?
so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 6:47.